The Cocoon, Chapter 7. The way of cowardice is to embed ourselves in a cocoon in which we perpetuate our habitual patterns. When we are constantly recreating our basic patterns of behavior and thought, we never have to leap into fresh air or onto fresh ground. In the last chapter, we talked about the dawn of the great eastern sun. However, in general, we are much more accustomed to the darkness of the setting sun world than we are to the light of the great eastern sun. Therefore, our next topic is dealing with darkness. By darkness, we mean enclosing ourselves in a familiar world in which we can hide or go to sleep. It is as thought we would like to re-enter our mother's womb and hide there forever, so that we could avoid being born. When we are afraid of waking up and afraid of experiencing our own fear, we create a cocoon to shield ourselves from the vision of the great eastern sun. We prefer to hide in our personal jungles and caves. When we hide from the world in this way, we feel secure. We may think that we have quieted our fear, but we are actually making ourselves numb with fear. We surround ourselves with our own familiar thoughts, so that nothing sharp or painful can touch us. We are so afraid of our own fear that we deaden our hearts. The way of cowardice is to embed ourselves in this cocoon, in which we perpetuate our habitual patterns. When we are constantly recreating our basic patterns of behavior and thought, we never have to leap into fresh air or onto fresh ground. Instead, we wrap ourselves in our own dark environment, where our only companion is the smell of our own sweat. We regard this dank cocoon as a family heirloom or inheritance, and we don't want to give that good bad memory away. In the cocoon, there is no dance, no walking, no breathing, no, not even a wink of the eyes. It is comfortable and sleepy, an intense and very familiar home. In the world of the cocoon, such things as spring cleaning have never been known. We feel that it is too much work, too much trouble to clean it up. We will prefer to go back to sleep. In the cocoon, there is no idea of light at all, until we experience some longing for openness, some longing for something other than the smell of our own sweat. When we begin to examine that comfortable darkness, look at it, smell it, feel it, we find it claustrophobic. So the first impulse that draws us away from the darkness of the cocoon towards the light of the great eastern sun is a longing for ventilation. As soon as we begin to sense the possibility of fresh air, we realize that our arms and legs are being restricted. We want to stretch out and walk, dance, even jump. We realize that there is an alternative to our cocoon. We discover that we could be free from the trap. Free from that trap. With that longing for fresh air, for a breeze of delight, we open our eyes and we begin to look for an alternative environment to our cocoon. And to our surprise, we begin to see light, even though it may be hazy at first. The tearing of the cocoon takes place at that point. Then we realize that the degraded cocoon we have been hiding in is revolting, and we want to turn up the lights as far as we can. In fact, we are not turning up the lights, but we are simply opening our eyes wider, constantly looking for the brightest light. So we catch a certain kind of fever, the fever of the great eastern sun. But again and again, we should reflect back to the darkness of the cocoon. In order to inspire ourselves to move forward, we must look back to see the contrast with the place we came from. If we don't look back, then we will have difficulty relating to the reality of the setting sun. You see, we cannot just reject the world of the cocoon, even though it is quite horrific and unnecessary. We have to develop genuine sympathy for our own experiences of darkness, as well as those of others. Otherwise, our journey out the cocoon simply becomes a setting sun holiday. Without the reference point of looking back, we have a tendency to create a new cocoon in the great Easter sun. Now that we have left the darkness behind, we feel that we can just bathe in the sun, lying in the sand and stupefying ourselves. But when we look back to the cocoon and see the suffering that takes place in the world of the coward, that inspires us to go forward in our journey of warriorship. It is not a journey in the sense of walking in the desert, looking ahead to the horizon. Rather, it is a journey that is unfolding within us. So we begin to appreciate the great eastern sun, not as something outside of us, like the sun in the sky, but as the great eastern sun in our head and shoulders, in our face, our hair, our lips, our chest. If we examine our posture, our behavior, our existence, we find that the attributes of the great eastern sun are reflected in every aspect of our being. This brings a feeling of being a truly human being. Physically, psychologically, domestically, spiritually. We feel that we can lead our lives in the fullest way. There is a gut-level sense of health and wholesomeness taking place in our lives, as if we were holding a solid brick of gold. It is